The autumn wind blew cold across Westbrook University as students rushed between buildings. Leaves fell from old trees and covered the walking paths in orange and red. Everyone seemed to know where they were going. Everyone seemed to have friends to meet and places to be. Everyone except Grace Park. Grace walked slowly across the campus with her head down. She wore an oversized gray sweater that was too big for her small body. Her thick glasses sat on her nose, and her dark hair fell across her face like a curtain. She carried her books close to her chest and did not look at anyone. She was the kind of person that nobody noticed. The kind of person that people forgot existed 5 minutes after meeting her. And that was exactly how she wanted it. Grace found her usual spot in the library, a small table hidden behind the tall shelves in the back corner. She sat down and opened her book, but she did not read. Instead, she listened. She heard 2 students talking about a party. She heard a professor on the phone with his wife. She heard the librarian complaining about late returns. Grace heard everything, but nobody knew she was listening. This was her gift. This was her curse. Her roommate, Lily Kim, had tried many times to understand her. Lily was everything Grace was not. She was loud and friendly and beautiful. She had many friends and went to many parties. She could not understand why Grace spent all her time alone. "You should come out with us tonight," Lily had said that morning, putting on her makeup in their small dorm room. "There is a new club downtown. It will be fun." Grace had shaken her head softly. "No, thank you. I have studying to do." Lily had sighed and rolled her eyes. "You always have studying to do. What are you even studying for? You never seem stressed about grades." Grace had just smiled her small, quiet smile and said nothing. The truth was that Grace was not studying at all. The books she read were covers for something else. Behind the pages of her biology textbook were files, mission reports, intelligence briefings, information about creatures that most humans did not know existed, because Grace Park was not just a quiet college student. She was something much more dangerous. 50 years ago, humanity had made first contact with alien life. The galaxy was full of ancient civilizations, powerful empires, and strange creatures. Humans were seen as primitive, weak, unimportant. The great alien races looked at Earth the way humans looked at ants, but then something changed. The aliens discovered that humans had one skill that no other species possessed. Humans could hunt. Not just hunt for food like animals did. Humans could track anything across any terrain. They could wait for days without moving. They could adapt to any environment. They could kill things much bigger and stronger than themselves. More importantly, humans enjoyed it. The great alien empires had many problems. Monsters escaped from laboratories. Dangerous creatures bred out of control on distant planets. Criminal warlords hid in places no alien soldier would go. The aliens had powerful weapons and advanced technology, but they did not have the instinct. They did not have the patience. They did not have the cold, quiet determination that lived inside every human hunter. So they started hiring humans. The Terran Hunter Corps was born, an organization of the deadliest men and women Earth had ever produced. They trained in secret facilities. They used technology that mixed human and alien science. They went places no one else would go and killed things no one else could kill. And among all the hunters in the Corps, there was one name that was spoken in whispers. One name that made even the bravest aliens feel fear. The Silence. No one knew who the Silence was. No one had ever seen their face. All anyone knew was that when the Silence took a contract, the target died. Always. Without exception. Without mercy. Grace closed her book and checked her watch. It was almost 3 in the afternoon. She had a class in 30 minutes, but she would not go. She had received a message that morning on her secure communicator. Just 3 words. Standby. Priority. She left the library and walked to the edge of campus where the old science building stood empty. It had been closed for renovation 2 years ago, but the renovation never happened. Now it was just a dark, forgotten place that nobody visited. Grace went inside through a broken window. She walked down empty hallways where dust covered everything. She went downstairs into the basement, then through a door marked Maintenance. That was supposed to be locked. Behind the door was a small room with nothing in it except a metal panel on the wall. Grace pressed her hand against the panel. A blue light scanned her palm, then her eye, then something deeper. Something in her blood. The wall opened. Inside was a hidden room full of technology that did not belong on Earth. Screens glowed with alien writing. A communication device hummed with power from a source that human scientists still did not understand. Grace sat down at the main console and activated the secure channel. The screen flickered, and then a face appeared. Director Marcus Cole, her handler. He was an older man with gray hair and eyes that glowed faintly blue from his cybernetic implants. "Grace," he said, "we have a situation. Tell me." A transport ship crashed in the Pacific Northwest 3 days ago. It was carrying illegal cargo, alien creatures being sold on the black market. He paused. One of them survived the crash. A Varth. Grace did not move. Her face showed nothing, but inside she felt something cold settle in her stomach. She knew what a Varth was. She had read the files. She had seen the pictures of what they left behind. The hegemony sent 2 retrieval teams, Cole continued. Both teams are dead. 16 soldiers total. The creature killed them all in less than an hour. And now they want us. They want you specifically. They are offering triple the standard payment. They are scared, Grace. I have never seen the hegemony this scared. Grace looked at the screen for a long moment. Outside this hidden room, she was nobody. A quiet girl that people forgot. A wallflower who ate lunch alone and never went to parties. But in here, in this world of shadows and blood, she was something else entirely. "Send me the coordinates," she said. "I will leave tonight." Cole nodded. "One more thing. A civilian went missing in that area yesterday. A young man named Jake Reynolds. He was taking photographs in the forest when he disappeared." Grace's jaw tightened just slightly. Civilians made everything more complicated. "If he is still alive, I will find him. I know you will." Cole almost smiled. "Good hunting." Silence. The screen went dark. Grace sat alone in the hidden room, surrounded by technology from distant stars. Tomorrow she would be back on campus, quiet and invisible and forgotten. But tonight, she would become what the galaxy feared most. The hunt was about to begin. Grace waited until midnight before leaving her dorm room. Lily was already asleep, her phone still glowing on her pillow from scrolling through social media. Grace moved without sound across the floor, picked up a small bag she had packed earlier, and slipped out the door. The campus was quiet at this hour. A few students walked between buildings, probably coming back from late study sessions or parties. None of them noticed the small girl in the gray hoodie walking toward the parking lot. Why would they? She was nobody important. Grace walked for 20 minutes until she reached an old warehouse on the edge of town. The building looked abandoned. Windows were broken. Paint peeled from the walls. A sign that once said, "Morrison Storage," now only showed faded letters that no one could read. She went inside through a side door that was not really locked. The warehouse was empty except for dust and old boxes. But Grace walked to the center of the room and stopped. She looked up at the ceiling and waited. The air in front of her began to shimmer. It was like looking at a road on a hot summer day when the heat makes everything wave and bend. Then the shimmer became solid, and a spacecraft appeared where there had been nothing before. The ship was small, designed for speed and stealth rather than comfort. Its surface was a dark gray that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. A door opened in its side, and a ramp lowered to the ground. Grace walked up the ramp without hesitation. She had done this many times before. Inside the ship, Director Cole was waiting. He sat at a console covered with holographic displays, his cybernetic eyes scanning information faster than any normal human could read. When Grace entered, he turned to face her. "You made good time," he said. "I always do." She sat down in the seat across from him and dropped her bag on the floor. The bag contained her civilian identity, clothes, books, a phone with pictures of food, and sunsets like any normal college student. She would not need these things where she was going. Cole pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed a creature that looked like something from a nightmare. 8 legs, each one thick with muscle and ending in claws that could tear through metal. A body covered in scales that glowed with a faint blue light. A head with too many eyes, and a mouth full of teeth designed for one purpose only. "The Vorath," Cole said. "Originally from a planet in the Andromeda sector. Apex predator. Top of the food chain. Nothing on its home world can kill it." Grace studied the hologram carefully. She noted the way the legs were positioned, the placement of the eyes, the thickness of the scales. Every detail mattered. Every detail could mean the difference between life and death. "How did it get here?" she asked. "Black market traders. Some rich collector wanted an exotic pet." Cole shook his head with disgust. "The transport crashed in the mountains. The pilot died on impact. The containment field failed. The Vorath walked out into a world with no natural predators. Except us." Cole almost smiled at that. "Except us." He pressed another button, and the hologram changed to show a map of the Pacific Northwest. A large area was highlighted in red. "This is the hunting ground. About 200 square miles of dense forest. Mountains, rivers, caves. Perfect territory for something that wants to hide. Or hunt," Grace said quietly. "The hegemony sent their best soldiers. 16 of them, armed with plasma weapons and wearing combat armor that could stop a bullet from a railgun." Cole paused. "The Vorath killed them all in 53 minutes. We found pieces of them scattered across half a mile." Grace did not react to this news. She had seen what alien predators could do. She had seen worse. "The civilian," she said. "Tell me about him." Cole pulled up another display. A photograph appeared showing a young man with brown hair and a friendly smile. He wore a camera around his neck and stood in front of a beautiful waterfall. Jake Reynolds, 24 years old, professional photographer. He was in the area taking pictures for a nature magazine. He went hiking 3 days ago and never came back. "Do we know if he is still alive?" "No, but we have not found a body either. The Vorath usually leaves remains. The fact that we have found nothing could mean Jake is still hiding somewhere." Grace looked at the photograph. Jake Reynolds had kind eyes. He probably had a family who loved him, friends who were worried about him. He had walked into those mountains, thinking about light and shadow and the perfect shot, not knowing that something ancient and terrible was waiting. "I will find him," she said. Cole nodded. He had expected nothing less. "Your equipment is in the back. Standard hunter kit plus some extras for big game. The Vorath scales can resist most plasma weapons, so I have included armor-piercing rounds and a collapsed star blade." Grace stood and walked to the back of the ship, where several cases were arranged on a table. She opened them one by one and examined the contents. The first case held her armor. It was not like the bulky suits that soldiers wore. This was thin and flexible, designed to move with her body like a second skin. The surface could change color and pattern to match any environment. Sensors built into the fabric could detect heat, sound, and movement from hundreds of feet away. The second case held her weapons. A plasma rifle with a custom scope that could see in darkness. A pistol small enough to hide, but powerful enough to stop a charging animal. And the blade. The collapsed star blade was made from material so dense that a piece the size of a coin would weigh as much as a car. Shaped into a sword, it could cut through anything in a known universe. The third case held her. Hunting tools, traps, sensors, medical supplies, emergency rations. Everything she would need to survive alone in the wilderness for as long as necessary. Grace began to change. She removed her civilian clothes and put on the armor, moving with practiced efficiency. She had done this so many times that she did not need to think about it. Her body knew what to do. When she was dressed, she looked different. The quiet college girl was gone. In her place stood something else. Something dangerous. Something that made even the deadliest creatures in the galaxy feel fear. "The extraction point is here," Cole said, pointing to a location on the map. "When the job is done, activate your beacon and we will pick you up. And if I do not activate the beacon, then I will send someone to collect what is left of you." His voice was matter-of-fact. They had both been doing this long enough to know that death was always possible. "But we both know that will not happen." Grace picked up her weapons and strapped them to her body. The rifle went on her back. The pistol went on her hip. The blade hung at her side, ready to be drawn in an instant. "No," she said softly. "It will not." The ship's door opened again, and cold mountain air rushed in. Outside was darkness and trees, and somewhere in that darkness, a monster was waiting. Grace walked down the ramp and disappeared into the night. Behind her, the ship flickered and vanished, leaving no trace that it had ever been there. The hunt had begun. The forest was old and dark and full of secrets. Trees grew so tall and thick that sunlight barely reached the ground. Moss covered everything in shades of green and gray. The air smelled of wet earth and rotting leaves. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Grace moved through this world like a ghost. Her armor changed color to match the shadows around her. Her footsteps made no sound on the soft ground. She breathed slowly and quietly, becoming part of the forest rather than an intruder in it. She had been hunting for 2 days now. On the first day, she found where the transport ship had crashed. The wreckage was scattered across a hillside, metal twisted and burned by the impact. She searched the debris and found the broken containment unit. The Varth had ripped through the walls like they were paper. From there, she followed the trail. A normal person would have seen nothing. But Grace was not a normal person. She saw the scratches on tree bark where claws had gripped. She saw the slight depression in the moss where a heavy body had rested. She smelled the faint chemical trace that the Varth left behind wherever it went. The creature was smart. It did not travel in straight lines. It doubled back on itself. It walked through streams to hide its scent. It climbed trees and jumped from branch to branch to avoid leaving tracks on the ground. But Grace was smarter. She built a map in her mind of everywhere the Varth had been. She studied its patterns. She learned how it thought. After 2 days, she knew this creature better than it knew itself. On the second night, she found the soldiers. They were exactly where Cole had said they would be. 16 bodies scattered across the forest floor. Some were in pieces. Some looked almost peaceful, like they were sleeping. All of them had died with weapons in their hands, still trying to fight something they could not defeat. Grace knelt beside one of the bodies and examined it carefully. The armor was the best the hegemony could produce. It should have protected against almost any attack. But the Varth had found the weak points. The joints. The neck. The places where armor met armor and left small gaps. This creature understood technology. It understood how to fight soldiers. The hegemony had sent warriors, and warriors had rules. Warriors had training. Warriors were predictable. Grace was not a warrior. She was a hunter, and hunters had no rules. She continued deeper into the forest, following tracks that grew fresher with every mile. The forest was not running anymore. It had found a territory it liked. It was making a home. On the morning of the third day, Grace found Jake Reynolds. She almost missed him. He had hidden himself well, crawling into a small cave beneath a rocky outcrop and covering the entrance with branches and leaves. Only a faint heat signature on her sensors revealed that something alive was inside. Grace approached slowly and carefully. She did not know what condition Jake would be in. Sometimes, people who encountered alien predators lost their minds from fear. Sometimes, they became dangerous themselves. She moved the branches aside and looked into the cave. Jake was there, pressed against the back wall. His face was pale and dirty. His eyes were wide with terror. One of his legs was bent at a wrong angle, clearly broken. "Please," he whispered. "Please do not hurt me." "I am not going to hurt you," Grace said softly. She crawled into the cave and knelt beside him. "My name is Grace. I am here to help you. There is something out there." His voice shook. Something. I did not know what it was. I saw it, and I ran and I fell and... He looked at his broken leg. "I have been hiding here for 3 days. I can hear it at night, walking, searching." "I know." Grace opened her medical kit and began examining his leg. "You did well to hide. You are alive because you were smart. What is that thing?" "Something that should not be on Earth. Something I am going to kill." Jake stared at her. In the dim light of the cave, he could see her more clearly now. She was small and young and looked like she should be in a college classroom, not a dangerous forest. But there was something in her eyes. Something cold and certain that made him believe every word she said. Grace set his leg with quick, efficient movements. Jake screamed once, then bit down on his sleeve to stop himself from making more noise. She gave him water and a small pill that would help with the pain. "I need you to stay here," she said. "Do not leave this cave for any reason. Do not make any noise. I have put a device at the entrance that will hide your scent. The creature will not find you. Where are you going?" "To finish my job." She pulled a small blanket from her pack and laid it over him. Then she reached into a side pocket and took out a thin silver disc. "If I do not come back in 2 days, press this button. It will call for help. People will come to get you." Jake took the disc with trembling hands. "You are going to fight that thing alone?" Grace smiled. It was a small smile, gentle and almost sad. "I always work alone." She left the cave and carefully replaced the branches over the entrance. Then she checked the scent-masking device to make sure it was working properly. The Vorath hunted primarily by smell. Without her scent to guide it, the creature would pass right by Jake's hiding place. Now, the real hunt could begin. Grace spent the rest of the day preparing. She studied the terrain and found the perfect location for a confrontation. A clearing surrounded by rocky walls on 3 sides, with only one way in and one way out. She planted sensors around the edges. She set traps in the shadows. She found the best position for her rifle and the best angles for her blade. When night fell, she sat in the center of the clearing and waited. The forest grew quiet. Even the insects stopped making noise. Animals could sense when a predator was near. They hid in their burrows and nests and prayed they would not be noticed. Grace did not hide. She sat perfectly still, her breathing slow and even. Her armor made her almost invisible in the darkness. But she was not trying to hide. She was bait. An hour passed. Then 2. The moon rose above the trees, casting silver light across the clearing. Grace did not move. She did not sleep. She simply waited. Then she heard it. A soft sound. The scrape of claws on rock. The whisper of scales against leaves. Something was moving through the forest, circling the clearing, testing, watching. Grace felt her heartbeat slow down even further. This was the moment she lived for. The moment when everything else disappeared and there was only the hunt. Only the predator and the prey. The Varus stepped into the clearing. It was even bigger than the hologram had shown. 8 legs spread wide, each one thick with muscle. Scales glowed with a faint blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Too many eyes fixed on Grace, studying her the same way she had studied it. For a long moment, nothing happened. The hunter and the hunted looked at each other across the moonlit clearing. Then, the Varus did something unexpected that it hesitated in all its long life. This creature had never encountered anything that did not run. Prey always ran. It was the natural order of things. But this small, strange being just sat there, waiting, unafraid. The Varus did not understand fear. But in that moment, it felt something close to it. Grace rose slowly to her feet. She drew her blade, and the collapsed star metal hummed with power. "Hello," she said softly. "I have been looking for you." The Varus attacked without warning. One moment, it was standing at the edge of the clearing. The next moment, it was a blur of claws and teeth, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. Grace was faster. She threw herself to the side as the creature's claws cut through the air, where she had been standing. The attack missed her by inches. She could feel the wind from it passing. She could smell the strange chemical scent of the creature's body. She did not run. She rolled and came up on her feet, her blade already swinging. The collapsed star metal connected with one of the Varus' legs. Sparks flew as the edge cut through scales that had stopped plasma fire from military weapons. The creature screamed. It was a terrible sound, high and sharp, like metal being torn apart. Blue blood sprayed from the wound and hissed where it hit the ground. First blood. Grace had drawn first blood, but the Varus was not finished. It spun faster than she expected, and one of its remaining legs caught her across the shoulder. The impact threw her backward through the air. She hit a tree hard and felt something in her armor crack. Pain exploded through her body. But pain was an old friend. Pain could be ignored. She pushed herself up from the ground as the Varus charged again. This time, she did not try to dodge. Instead, she stepped forward inside the creature's reach, where its long legs could not hit her. Her blade sang through the air and opened a deep cut across its chest. The creature howled and swung its head down, trying to catch her with its teeth. Grace ducked under the attack and drove her blade upward, into the soft flesh beneath its jaw. The Varus threw her off with a violent shake of its head. She flew through the air again and landed hard on the rocky ground. Her blade stayed in her hand. She never let go of her blade. They faced each other across the clearing. Both of them were bleeding now. Both of them were hurt. But neither of them was ready to stop. This was the truth that the aliens did not understand about humans. They thought humans were weak because humans were small and soft and short-lived. They did not understand that these things made humans stronger, not weaker. Humans had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them. They had fought for survival against animals with bigger teeth, sharper claws, and stronger bodies. They had learned that the way to win was not to be the biggest or the strongest. The way to win was to be the most determined, the most stubborn, the most willing to keep fighting when every sensible creature would give up. The Varus was a perfect killing machine. It had been designed by millions of years of evolution to be the ultimate predator. Nothing on its home world could challenge it. But Grace Park was a human. And humans did not know how to quit. She attacked. This time, she did not wait for the creature to come to her. She ran straight at it, moving low and fast. The Varth slashed at her with its claws, and she twisted around the attack. It snapped at her with its teeth, and she ducked beneath them. She was inside its guard now, where its size became a weakness instead of a strength. Her blade cut deep into its side. Then its leg. Then its neck. Each strike was precise and calculated, targeting the joints where scales were thinner and flesh was vulnerable. The creature tried to retreat, but Grace followed. She would not give it time to recover. She would not give it time to think. She was relentless, merciless, everything that had made humans the most feared hunters in the galaxy. The Varth made a desperate attack, all 8 of its remaining legs striking at once. One of them caught Grace in the ribs, and she felt bones break. Another raked across her back, tearing through her armor and into the flesh beneath. She did not stop. She did not slow down. She drove her blade into the creature's eye and twisted. The Varth screamed one final time. Then it fell. Grace stood over its body, breathing hard. Blood ran down her arm and dripped from her fingers. Some of it was blue. Most of it was red. Her shoulder burned. Her ribs screamed. Her back felt like it was on fire, but she was still standing. And the Varth was not. She knelt beside the creature and placed her hand on its chest. She could feel its heart still beating, slow and weak. It was dying, but it was not dead yet. It looked up at her with its remaining eyes, and for a moment she thought she saw something there. Not hatred, not anger. Something else, not understanding, maybe. Recognition of a worthy enemy. "You are magnificent," Grace said softly. "The greatest predator your world ever produced. But this is not your world, and I am not your prey." She raised her blade one final time and brought it down in a single clean stroke. The Varth's heart stopped. Its body went still. Its eyes closed forever. Grace sat down on the ground beside the creature. She was too tired to stand anymore, too hurt to move. She reached into her pack and pulled out her medical kit, then began treating her wounds with slow, careful movements. The cut on her shoulder was deep but clean. She sealed it with synthetic skin and injected painkillers to dull the throbbing. Her ribs were cracked, maybe broken. She wrapped them tightly and hoped nothing had punctured her lungs. The wound on her back was the worst. She could not see it, could not reach it properly. She did her best to clean it and stop the bleeding, then accepted that it would have to wait for real medical attention. When she was done, she activated her communicator. Static hissed for a moment, then Cole's voice came through. "Silence. Report. Target eliminated. I need medical evac." A pause. "Are you injured?" "Yes. How bad?" Grace looked down at herself. Her armor was torn in a dozen places. She was covered in blood, both human and alien. She could feel her body starting to shake as the adrenaline faded and shock began to set in. "I will live," she said, "but I would appreciate it if you hurried. Extraction team is on the way. 20 minutes. Copy. I'm going to get the civilian now." "Grace." Cole's voice was serious. "Your injuries. Can you make it?" She pushed herself to her feet. It hurt. Everything hurt. But pain was just information. Pain was just her body telling her that she was still alive. "I said I would find him," she said. "I keep my promises." She left the clearing and walked back through the forest toward Jake's hiding place. The path seemed longer than before. Every step sent waves of pain through her body. Her vision blurred and she had to stop several times to steady herself against trees. But she did not fall. She did not give up. She kept walking. The cave came into view just as the sun began to rise. Pink and gold light filtered through the trees, making the forest look peaceful and beautiful. Grace pulled aside the branches and looked inside. Jake was awake, clutching the silver disc she had given him. When he saw her, his eyes went wide. "You are alive," he breathed. "I heard the sounds. The screaming. I thought, the creature is dead. Grace crawled into the cave and sat down beside him. Help is coming. We are going home. Jake looked at her more closely. He saw the torn armor, the blood, the way she held her body like everything was broken. You killed it, he said. You actually killed it. Yes. How? That thing was... I saw it. It was a monster. How could anyone kill something like that? Grace leaned her head back against the cave wall and closed her eyes. She was so tired. More tired than she had ever been in her life. Because someone had to, she said simply. Because that is what we do. Jake did not understand. How could he? He was a photographer. He took pictures of beautiful things. He did not know about the Terran Hunter course. He did not know about the secret war between humans and the monsters of the galaxy. But that was okay. He did not need to know. The whole point was that people like Jake could live their normal lives, taking pictures and loving their families and never knowing what waited in the darkness. That was why hunters like Grace existed. To keep the darkness away, the sound of engines filled the air. The extraction team was here. Grace smiled and let herself rest. The hunt was over. The medical facilities of the Terran Hunter Corps were the best in the galaxy. They had to be. Hunters came back broken more often than they came back whole. The doctors used technology that combined human medicine with alien science. Bones were healed with sound waves. Flesh was regrown with microscopic machines. Scars were erased as if they had never existed. Grace spent 1 week in the medical bay, floating in a tank of warm liquid while machines repaired her body. She spent another week in recovery, doing physical therapy to make sure everything worked properly. By the end of the 3rd week, she was completely healed. Not a single mark remained from her battle with the Varth. Director Cole came to see her on her last day at the facility. The hegemony sent their payment, he said, sitting down beside her bed. Triple the standard rate, as promised. They also sent a personal message of thanks from the High Council. I do not care about thanks. I know. But it matters. Every successful hunt builds our reputation. Every monster we kill proves that humans are not the weak, primitive species the galaxy thinks we are. Cole paused. You did good work, Grace. The Varth was supposed to be unkillable. You killed it in 1 night. Grace looked out the window at the mountains beyond the facility. Somewhere out there, normal people were living normal lives. Going to work. Eating dinner with their families. Sleeping safely in their beds. What happened to Jake Reynolds? She asked. The civilian? He is fine. We flew him to a hospital in Seattle. Told the authorities that a search and rescue team found him in the woods. His leg is healing well. Cole smiled slightly. He has been telling everyone about the angel who saved him. A mysterious woman who appeared out of nowhere, killed a monster, and then disappeared. Does he remember my face? The medical team gave him something to blur his memory of you. He remembers that someone saved him, but the details are foggy. Just a shape in the darkness. A voice telling him everything would be okay. Grace nodded. It was better this way. Jake could go back to his life without carrying the weight of knowing about people like her. About things like the Varth. Some knowledge was too heavy for normal people to bear. Your transport back to the university is ready, Cole said. Unless you want more time? No. Grace stood up and stretched. Her body felt perfect. Strong and flexible and completely without pain. I have been away too long already. My roommate will ask questions. What will you tell her? That I went to visit family. That I got food poisoning and was too sick to check my phone. Grace almost smiled. People believe what they expect to believe. Nobody expects the quiet girl from room 214 to be hunting alien monsters. She changed into civilian clothes, jeans, an oversized sweater. Her thick glasses. When she looked in the mirror, she saw Grace Park again. Not the silence, not the deadliest hunter in the galaxy. Just a small, quiet college student who liked to read books alone. The transformation was complete. A college car drove her back to Westbrook University. It was early evening when she arrived, and the campus was busy with students heading to dinner or evening classes. Grace walked through the crowds without being noticed. People moved around her like water around a stone, never quite seeing her, never remembering she was there. Her room was exactly as she had left it. Lily's side was messy with clothes and makeup. Grace's side was neat and simple. A bed, a desk, a shelf of books. Lily burst through the door 10 minutes later. "Grace, you are back." She threw her arms around her roommate in a tight hug. "I was so worried. You just disappeared and would not answer your phone, and I thought something terrible happened." "I am sorry." Grace returned the hug carefully. "There was a family emergency. Then I got sick. It was a bad few weeks." "You poor thing." Lily pulled back and looked at her closely. "You do look a bit pale. Are you feeling better now?" "Much better." "Good. Because you missed so much." Jenny and Tom broke up, and Professor Harris quit. And there was this crazy story on the news about a photographer who got lost in the woods and was saved by some mysterious person. It was all very exciting. Grace sat down on her bed and let Lily talk. Her roommate could talk for hours without needing any response. It was relaxing in a way, normal, simple. This was the life she protected. Girls like Lily, who worried about boyfriends and gossip and grades. Boys like Jake, who took pictures of waterfalls and never imagined that monsters were real. Ordinary people with ordinary problems living ordinary lives. They would never know how close they came to danger. They would never know what waited in the darkness beyond their small, safe world. And that was exactly how it should be. The next day, Grace went back to class. She sat in the back row, took notes, and did not speak unless a professor called on her. After class, she went to the library and found her usual spot behind the tall shelves. She opened a book and pretended to read. At lunch, she sat alone under the old oak tree. Other students walked past without looking at her. A group of girls laughed at a table nearby. A boy threw a frisbee to his friend. The sun was warm and the sky was blue and everything was peaceful. A shadow fell across her. "Hey," Grace looked up. Jake Reynolds was standing there, leaning on a cane. His leg was still healing, but he was out of the hospital and walking again. "Can I sit down?" he asked. She nodded. Jake lowered himself to the ground beside her with a small grunt of pain. For a moment, they sat in silence, watching the other students go about their lives. "I know it was you," he said finally. "I know you are the one who saved me." Grace did not respond. Her face showed nothing. "The doctors said my memory was affected by trauma, but I remember your voice. I remember your face." He turned to look at her. "I went to every class on campus looking for you. I asked everyone if they knew a girl named Grace. Finally, someone pointed me here." "You should not have looked for me," Grace said quietly. "Maybe not, but I had to say thank you." Jake paused. "I do not understand what happened in those woods. I do not understand what that creature was, or why you were there, or how you killed it. But I'm alive because of you. My family still has a son because of you." Grace was silent for a long moment. Then she turned to face him. "What I do, who I am, these are things you cannot know. Things you should not know. The world is safer when people like you do not ask questions about people like me. I understand." Jake nodded slowly. "I will not tell anyone. I will not ask questions. But I needed you to know that what you did matters. That I am grateful. That someone knows you are a hero, even if no one else ever will." He pushed himself to his feet. wincing at the pain in his leg. "Thank you, Grace, for everything." He walked away, leaving her alone under the tree. Grace watched him go. A hero. That was not a word she would use for herself. Heroes were brave and noble and good. She was just someone who killed things. Someone who did the dark work that allowed the light to exist. But maybe that was okay. Maybe the world needed people like her. People who would walk into the darkness so others did not have to. People who would face the monsters alone. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number that she knew very well. New target confirmed. Report when ready. Grace looked at the message for a long moment. Then she looked up at the blue sky, at the students laughing and playing, at the peaceful world that had no idea what protected it. She typed her reply, "Ready." Then she put her phone away and opened her book. To anyone watching, she was just a quiet girl reading under a tree. Nobody special. Nobody important. But somewhere in the galaxy, alien warlords were telling stories about the silence. Somewhere, monsters were afraid to step out of the shadows. Somewhere, the deadliest hunter known to live was waiting for her next call. And until that call came, Grace Park would be here, quiet, invisible, watching, protecting humanity, one hunt at a time.